Very interesting sales numbers here from China in August. Geely are catching up to BYD. Here are the big EV players in China. Here are the numbers they delivered, the sales they delivered to the market in August of this year. YouTube's new algorithm means that you're often not getting all of our videos in your feed. There's 7,500. I'm pretty sure you're probably not seeing a lot of them. In the description, there is a link to our newsletter. Click on that and you can get an update every day of all the latest news in the electric car industry. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. And if you'd like to come on a trip to China with us, register interest, send me an email, contact@theelectricviking.com. In August, Chinese automakers' EV sales were up. Most of them were. NIO sales were up 55%. XPeng was up 250%. Huawei's HEMA up 32%. Xiaomi was up. Geely was up 95%. And BYD was up 0.1%. In fact, yeah, they weren't actually up at all, really. Interestingly, though, BYD's plug-in hybrid sales fell by 24%, but their EV sales increased by 35%. And what's happening here is Geely is taking market share. Xiaomi, they sold more than 30,000. In the first 3 weeks of July, Tesla registered 37,700 vehicles, probably registered around 50,000 vehicles. So we'll actually talk about Tesla in a video coming to the channel probably within the next 2 days. So who's leading? Well, clearly BYD is still easily leading the market. It sold 371,500 vehicles, which was about the same as last year. So far this year, BYD has sold 2.8 million cars worldwide, which is growth of 22%. So their growth has kind of stalled, in particular the last couple of months, but still good sales numbers from BYD. However, there's no doubt that they've got to be looking over their shoulders and looking at Geely. There was an interesting argument between Geely and BYD at a conference with the government involving discussions about too much discounting going on. There was some kind of mudslinging in the room, and I spoke to some executives in China who laughed about it. It's kind of interesting to see, though, this a very, very interesting scenario here where BYD feel like it's them against the world. I don't think that's really true, but that's the way they're feeling recently. Geely sold 147,000 vehicles, which was growth of 13% from July, but importantly, it was growth of 95% from the same month last year. Geely Auto sold just over 1 million vehicles this year, 1,002,000, which was growth of 121% versus last year. So you can see here, interesting to compare Geely and BYD, and I mentioned this last year. BYD up 22%, but Geely up 120.5% this year. SAIC, SAIC, who own MG and LM Motors, they sold 130,000 vehicles, which was growth of 11% from July. Chang'an sold 88,000. That was growth of 11%. General Motors, Chinese joint venture with SAIC and Wuling, which is called SGMW, it sold 74,000, flat from July. Leapmotor, 57,000 vehicles. Best month ever for Leap. Great month for Leapmotor. Up 13.8% from July and up 88% from the same month last year. Leapmotor actually is growing at a very similar pace to XPeng. Not quite as fast, but I mean, its sales numbers are staggering. So kudos to Leapmotor, 57,000 vehicles, and all of those are electric. Well, actually not all of them, but about 95%. In 2025 so far, Leapmotor has delivered 330,000 vehicles, which is growth of 136% year on year. HEMA, 44,600 sales, down 6.6%, and up 32% from the same month last year. So far, HEMA, they've delivered 300,000 cars, up 140% year on year. Similar to XPeng, XPeng delivered 37,700, up 2.7% from July. However, it's up 169% from the same month last year. And total growth for XPeng this year is 252% for all of this year versus the same period last year, 252%. So XPeng, fastest growing car company in the world. Second place is Leapmotor, followed by Geely. Great Wall Motors, they delivered 37,500 vehicles. They're more of an export company, to be honest. That was up 8.4% from July and growth of 51% from the same month last year. In total so far, Great Wall Motors sold 232,000 vehicles in China, growth of 28%. NIO, record numbers for them, 31,000, up 49% from July and up 55% from the same month last year. So you can see here, the one company that's struggling is Li Auto. And what do Li Auto primarily sell? What type of cars do they sell? 90% of them, plug-in hybrids. BYD's plug-in hybrids in free fall, right? They have been for several months now. Li Auto also struggling. The company sells plug-in hybrids, so I think it's interesting to see this change. Li Auto delivered 28,530 vehicles, down 7.25% from July, but down 41% year over year. As of 2025, Li Auto has sold 263,000 cars, an 8.6% decline. So that's kind of interesting. What do you guys think about that? Let us know what your thoughts are. This is all from Car News China, guys, this chart here. It shows you basically the sales numbers of all the major Chinese car companies. These are deliveries of Chinese vehicles in China, by the way. Well, primarily anyway. To be honest, it's a little confusing because Geely does sell vehicles under a different umbrella globally, so this doesn't include those sales from Geely globally. You've also got BYD, that's their global sales, but for some of these companies, these figures are just for China. Most of them are globally, though, not all of them. XPeng, those are global sales numbers. You can see here, XPeng is in fourth place, and you've also got Aeon. Aeon sales, 27,000. Aeon are planning on selling electric cars in Europe and also in Australia within the next 12 months. So there'll be some new Aeon models coming to market, including a hatchback and an SUV. Lynk & Co as well. Lynk & Co sales up by 5.3% to 19,000. If you combine Lynk & Co with Zeekr, they delivered about 44,000 vehicles in the month of August together. Zeekr sales in the month of August, if you look at them by themselves, there was 17,626. Now, this separates the brands. It's quite interesting. You got Fangcheng Bao, 16,000 deliveries. Well, NIO's Onvo brand actually outsold Fangcheng Bao in the month of August, or at least out-delivered them anyway. Voyar was next, followed by Beijing. Denza, they've obviously split Denza here, which is obviously owned by BYD. So is Fangcheng Bao. Then you've got Avatar. You can see the NIO brand sales are down 17%. Of course, that's just the NIO brand by itself, not including the Onvo brand or the Firefly brand. And then, of course, down at the bottom, you've got Yangwang, which is BYD's very, very, very pricey luxury car brand. Yeah, Yangwang makes some amazing vehicles, and they delivered 405 of those luxury cars, which was actually growth of 19.5%. One brand that's kind of interesting is IM Motor. They are owned by SAIC, so kind of like a sister company to MG. They're bringing out some new vehicles around the world now. They've already started delivering them in numerous countries, including where we live here in Australia. So IM Motor makes some they're positioning themselves as luxury EVs, and that's the way they kind of market the company. But as you can see, sales are struggling for them in China, down 13% with only 6,000 deliveries. They might sell a lot more than that outside of China. So IM Motors could end up becoming more of a global brand than a Chinese brand. That's pretty likely. What are your thoughts on all this? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.